Alex stared at the warp drive, their hands trembling slightly. The hum of the massive engine filled the engineering bay, low and steady, like the heartbeat of the starship Aurora. Today was supposed to be routine, a normal checkup, a simple recalibration. But now a small mistake had grown into a catastrophe. Sparks flew from the console and a smell of burnt metal drifted through the room. Alex's stomach sank. No, 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 no. The warp drive, the heart of the Aurora, was broken, and breaking it wasn't just an inconvenience. Stranded in this uncharted sector, the ship, the crew, and everyone depending on them were now in serious danger. The door to the bay hissed open. Commander Vieira stepped in, tall, imposing, her sharp eyes scanning the mess. Her uniform was spotless, her stance unshakable. She didn't speak at first. She just looked. Alex swallowed hard. "Commander, I didn't mean to." Vieira held up a hand. "Save it, Alex. I know you didn't mean to, but that doesn't change what happened." Her voice was calm, but it carried weight. The weight of a lifetime spent commanding starships through impossible situations. Alex felt small. "I can fix it," Alex said, more to themselves than to her. "I'll figure it out. I can—" "Words are cheap," Vieira interrupted. "Money is cheap. Time is cheap. What I want is not something you can buy." Alex froze. I don't understand." "What do you mean?" Vieira stepped closer. "The warp drive is damaged beyond standard repair. To restore it, someone has to retrieve a rare energy crystal from the Helix Nebula. It is dangerous. Many have tried, most have failed. If you want to repair what you broke, that is the price. That is the payment." Alex's heart pounded. I can do it. I'll do it. Just tell me what to do." Vieira studied them silently, her eyes unreadable. Then she nodded once, sharp. "Good. But know this. Retrieving the crystal isn't enough. You will have to prove yourself in ways you haven't imagined. You will have to show courage, ingenuity, humanity." Alex blinked. "Humanity? Your kind is remarkable," Vieira said. "Not because of strength or technology, but because of adaptability. You improvise, you persist, you think beyond what any machine could calculate. That is what I want to see. That is what will repair this ship and earn my respect." Alex's chest tightened. The challenge was enormous, almost impossible. And yet, deep down, a spark of hope ignited. This was the chance to show what humans could do, even in a galaxy full of aliens with powers and machines far beyond their own. The weeks that followed were filled with preparation. Alex studied star maps, recalculated trajectories, and learned to predict stellar anomalies. They worked tirelessly, testing equipment, running simulations, and improvising tools from the ship's limited supplies. Every failure taught them something new. Every small success built confidence. But there was a loneliness too. Out here, in the silent void, Alex felt the distance of those they cared about back home. Friends and family lived light years away. They sent messages through the quantum comms network, but replies were slow and fragmented. Alex missed the easy warmth of connection, the laugh of a friend, the reassuring touch of a mentor. They felt distant, almost forgotten. One night, Alex sat in the observation deck staring at a distant star field. "I don't know if I'll ever see them again," they whispered, voice small. "I don't even know if they'll understand what I'm doing or why." The stars seemed endless, cold and indifferent. But Alex remembered Vieira's words: adaptability, ingenuity, humanity. They realized that even if others were far away, what mattered was how they acted now, how they faced challenges, and how they kept hope alive. The next day, Alex joined the ship's shuttle and launched toward the Helix Nebula. Each pulse of the engine reminded them of the warp drive still broken behind them, of the captain waiting, of the promise that failure was not an option. The journey was treacherous. Asteroid fields, radiation storms, and rogue energy currents challenged their every decision, But Alex improvised at every turn, using human intuition where machines failed. They patched shields with spare materials, navigated through hidden gravitational currents, and kept the shuttle steady even when sensors failed. And through it all, Alex thought of the distance between themselves and those they cared about. They drew strength from it. The longing didn't weaken them. It sharpened their focus. They were reminded why humans endure, not just for survival, but for connection, for purpose, for hope. Finally, after hours of near-impossible maneuvers, Alex spotted it. A glowing crystal, suspended in the heart of the nebula, pulsing with raw energy. They took a deep breath. One careful maneuver, one precise grab, and the crystal was theirs. As they secured it, Alex allowed themselves a small smile. The journey back would be dangerous too, but they had proven something already, that even when distant from those they loved, even when facing the vastness of space and the weight of mistakes, a human could rise. Back on the Aurora, the ship's engines hummed differently now. The crystal was installed, the warp drive glowing with renewed life. Commander Vieira stood silently behind Alex, watching, waiting. Alex exhaled. "I did it," they said softly. Vieira finally nodded, a faint smile touching her lips. "Yes, you did. And that is why the only payment I accept is you. Not as a punishment, not as a reward, but because you've shown what it means to be human." Alex felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the engines or the stars. It was respect, acknowledgement, and hope. They had crossed distance, danger, and doubt, and somehow in proving themselves here, in the cold void of space, they had reconnected, with purpose, with courage, and with humanity itself. After installing the crystal, Alex thought the hardest part was over. The warp drive hummed steadily and the Aurora was alive again. Yet, in the quiet moments, Alex felt a strange emptiness. The stars outside were brilliant, but they seemed farther away than ever. It wasn't just the distance from home, it was the distance from the people they cared about. Friends, family, even the mentors who had once guided them. They were all light years away, and every day of space travel stretched that distance further. Commander Vieira entered the engineering bay without knocking, her presence commanding yet calm. She looked at Alex with a steady gaze. "The warp drive is working," she said. "Good. But the test isn't over. There's more to prove." Alex's stomach sank. "More?" "Yes," Vieira replied. "The galaxy doesn't forgive mistakes. You may have repaired what you broke, but your challenge is far from complete. The Helix Nebula is unstable. A single miscalculation could destroy this ship, and everyone on it." Alex felt the weight of the responsibility. The crew looked to them for guidance now. They weren't just an engineer, they were the one who had fixed the impossible. Yet inside, Alex felt small and unsure. That night in the observation deck, Alex stared at a cluster of stars. Memories of home crept in, the warm sunlight, the laughter of friends, the comforting voice of someone special who had moved far away. They wished they could reach out, call, or simply be with them. But how could they, trapped here, light years from home, facing impossible odds? The next morning, Vieira gathered the crew. She laid out the plan. They would navigate the Aurora through a series of unstable wormholes to test the warp drive's full capacity. Every crew member had a role, but Alex was central. Their decisions would determine the ship's survival. Alex studied the charts. The wormholes were unpredictable, each with shifting currents and deadly gravitational eddies. Machines could calculate many things, but there were nuances no sensor could detect. Alex realized that human intuition, judgment, and courage would be just as important as any algorithm. As the Aurora approached the first wormhole, alarms blared. Sensors detected a fluctuation in the gravitational field. The engines strained. Crew members exchanged nervous glances. Alex stepped forward. "Trust me," they said. voice steady despite the panic rising inside. I can navigate this. They adjusted the ship's trajectory, combining sensor data with instinctive judgment. A tremor shook the hull, lights flickered, but slowly the Aurora slipped through the wormhole without damage. Relief washed over the crew, but Alex couldn't relax. Each successful passage reminded them of how far away home truly was, and how distant the people they cared about had become. Later, in the quiet of the engineering bay, Alex worked on fine-tuning the warp drive. Their hands moved with practiced precision, but their mind wandered. They thought of messages left unanswered, calls missed, and the tiny, invisible threads of connection that felt so fragile across the void. Sadness pressed in, but they refused to let it paralyze them. Humans survived and thrived because they acted even when the odds seemed hopeless. Vera appeared again, silently observing. "You worry too much about distance," she said softly. "It's natural, but strength isn't in avoiding distance, it's in bridging it." Alex frowned. "How? I can't just fly home. I can't make them understand what I'm doing here." "You bridge it with action," Vera replied. "With courage, with ingenuity. You can't close the miles, but you can show those who care that you are worthy of their trust, that you keep moving forward even when the path is dangerous and lonely." Alex considered her words. They realized that hope wasn't passive, it was active. It wasn't about wishing someone were closer. It was about proving that humanity could face impossible odds and still endure, still reach for connection, even across galaxies. Days passed, each test of the warp drive pushing Alex further. The crew began to look at them differently. Where there had been doubt, there was now respect. Where there had been fear, there was now trust. Alex started to see themselves not as a person stranded far from home, but as a representative of humanity's resilience, ingenuity, and determination. One evening, the Aurora entered a particularly volatile wormhole. Storms of radiation and energy cascaded through the ship. Sensors failed. Machines began recalculating endlessly, confused by the chaotic environment. Panic threatened to spread. Alex took a deep breath. "We do this the human way," they said firmly. "We improvise. We observe. We adapt." With careful timing, quick decisions, and an intuitive understanding of the wormhole's behavior, Alex guided the ship through. The crew cheered as the hull stabilized, the alarm silenced. In that moment, Alex understood something crucial. Even when far from those you love, your actions matter. Humanity mattered. They had proven that they could think, adapt, and survive when machines alone would fail. Later, as the ship sailed silently through calm space, Alex took a moment to write a message home. They didn't know if it would reach its destination quickly, but it didn't matter. The act of reaching out, of showing that they remembered, that they cared, was enough. It was hope in motion. Vera found Alex at the observation deck, looking at the endless stars. She didn't speak immediately, just watched. Then she said quietly, "You are learning what I wanted to see. Not just the warp drive, not just the success. You're showing that human courage, ingenuity, and hope are as powerful as any technology." Alex nodded. I feel far from everyone I care about," they admitted. "But I'm trying. I don't know if it's enough." "It is enough," Vera said, placing a hand briefly on their shoulder. "Distance is real. Loneliness is real. But humans endure. You endure. That is what matters. That is what bridges the distance." For the first time in weeks, Alex smiled. Not just because the warp drive was working or the ship was safe, but because they understood something deeper. Distance could not diminish human courage, ingenuity, or the ability to reach out, even across the vastness of space. They might be far from home, far from those they loved, but their actions, their hope, and their resilience could carry connection across any distance. And somewhere deep inside, Alex realized that this journey was only the beginning. They would face more challenges, more tests, and more distance, but humanity's strength, their strength, would shine through. Because sometimes, the only payment required for trust, respect, and connection was showing up, facing the impossible, and proving what it meant to be human. The Aurora sailed silently through space, its engines humming like a calm heartbeat. Yet the calm was only temporary. Alex knew what awaited them: the Helix Nebula. A dangerous region of swirling energy storms, shifting gravitational fields, and floating debris the size of small moons. Even the most experienced pilots avoided it, but the energy crystal, needed to fully restore the warp drive, was hidden deep inside its core. As Alex studied the navigational charts, their thoughts drifted. The distance from those they cared about felt heavier here than ever. They thought of the friend who had moved to another colony, someone whose laughter and quiet encouragement had meant so much. Letters and messages had crossed light years, but the gap between them felt like an abyss. Alex didn't know how to bridge it. They wanted to reach out, to reconnect, but didn't know where to start. "Alex," Vera said, entering the navigation bay, "the Helix isn't waiting. Are you ready?" Alex swallowed hard. I think so." Vera's eyes softened slightly. "Good. Remember, it's not just skill that will get you through. It's courage, ingenuity, and humanity. Trust yourself." The crew was tense as they approached the nebula. Lights flickered on the Aurora as radiation waves from the nearby stars interfered with sensors. The ship shuddered with each energy pulse. Alex gripped the controls, breathing steadily, trying to calm the anxiety that curled inside them. Every decision mattered. One wrong move could destroy the ship. As they entered the outer edge of the nebula, a storm of luminous gas clouds and electromagnetic currents struck the ship. Alarms blared. The navigation computers flickered. "Manual override," Alex shouted. "We're going human on this one." The crew looked at them, startled. Machines could usually calculate safe paths through dangerous regions, but here, the chaos was too unpredictable. Only a human mind capable of intuition, improvisation, and courage could guide them. Alex adjusted the ship's trajectory, moving through the glowing clouds with a combination of calculations and instinct. Every time the ship shivered under the stress, Alex felt a pang of doubt. Doubt about their ability to reach the crystal, doubt about their place among the stars, and doubt about whether anyone back home would understand the journey they were. Yet through the fear, they remembered Vera's words: humanity endures even when the odds are impossible. Alex focused on each challenge in front of them, one pulse of energy at a time, one maneuver at a time. Hours passed. The nebula tested them relentlessly. A rogue asteroid appeared without warning, floating across their path. Alex calculated the trajectory in a split second, using a combination of sensor readings and intuition, and guided the ship safely past it. Then came the radiation storm, so strong that it threatened to fry the ship's circuits. Alex quickly rewired auxiliary systems, creating makeshift shields with spare materials. The crew held their breath as the Aurora survived the storm. Finally, in the heart of the nebula, Alex saw it, the energy crystal. It glowed with a strange, almost alive light, pulsing in rhythm with the chaos around it. But it was not unguarded. A swirling mass of charged particles formed a barrier around the crystal, shifting unpredictably. Any attempt to grab it recklessly could result in instant destruction. Alex's heart raced. They thought of the friend who had moved away, who had once encouraged them to take risks and face challenges head-on. "I can do this," Alex whispered. "I can bridge the distance, in my own way." They began analyzing the particle currents, noticing subtle patterns invisible to the ship's sensors. Using small adjustments, they timed the movements of the ship with the pulses of the crystal's energy. Sweat dripped down their forehead as they carefully maneuvered. The crew watched in silence, trusting Alex completely. A sudden pulse nearly knocked the ship off course. Alex reacted instinctively, pushing the controls with a human precision no algorithm could replicate. The ship tilted dangerously but stabilized. Step by step, inch by inch, they approached the crystal. Finally, with a careful grab using the ship's extendable manipulator, the crystal was secure. A cheer erupted among the crew, but Alex barely noticed. Relief washed over them but so did a quiet, personal sorrow. They were far from home. They had succeeded in this impossible task, yet the distance from those they cared about remained. In the quiet aftermath, Alex stood at the observation deck again, staring at the swirling lights of the nebula behind the crystal. "I wish I could tell them," they whispered. "I wish they could see this. See what I did." Vera appeared beside them. "You've done more than just retrieve the crystal," she said softly. "You've shown what humans can do when faced with impossible odds. You've bridged distance not with messages but with courage and action. That matters. That reaches further than words ever could." Alex nodded slowly. The sadness hadn't disappeared. It lingered like a shadow, but hope had returned too. They realized that distance was not an end. It was a challenge to act, to endure, and to show humanity's value across any gap. As the Aurora prepared to leave the nebula, Alex sent a brief message to their friend back home. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't immediate. But it was a promise. "I'm here. I'm trying. And I'll keep reaching, no matter the distance." The ship's engines roared as they left the nebula, warp drive humming steadily with the new crystal installed. Alex felt a mixture of pride, exhaustion, and quiet longing. The journey was far from over, but every step forward reminded them of something important. Humans endure, humans adapt, and humans bridge distance through action and courage. And somewhere deep inside, Alex knew that hope, like the stars around them, could stretch across any distance no matter how vast. They had survived the nebula, proved their ingenuity, and kept the spark of connection alive, even in the emptiness of space. Because sometimes, showing up, taking action, and enduring the impossible is the way to reconnect with what matters most. The Aurora had emerged from the Helix Nebula, battered but intact. The warp drive hummed steadily with the newly installed crystal, a testament to Alex's skill and courage. Yet the vastness of space remained indifferent. Stars glittered coldly outside the windows, reminding Alex of the distance from home, the distance from those they cared about, and the quiet, unanswered longing in their heart. Alex was in the observation deck staring at a tiny blue planet in the distance, when a sudden signal lit up the navigation console. It was unlike anything the ship's systems had detected before. The waveform was organic, rhythmic, almost alive. "Commander Vieira," Alex called. "We're receiving a signal. It doesn't match any known species or ship." Vieira appeared behind them, her expression unreadable. "Let's see what our human intuition can make of it," she said. Alex studied the signal carefully. It wasn't hostile, but it was cautious, intelligent. Something or someone was observing the ship, curious but wary. The crew murmured nervously. Encounters like this often ended badly. Alex's mind raced. They thought of home again, the friends and family so far away. If I can't reach them directly, maybe I can reach this. Whatever this is, they thought. Maybe humanity can shine here too. "Prepare a communication probe," Alex instructed. "We'll attempt contact. But we do it gently, respectfully, no assumptions." The probe was launched, sending light pulses encoded with simple patterns of mathematics and music, the universal language of intelligence. Minutes passed, stretching into hours, before a response came. A glowing entity appeared on the observation monitors. It was a living pattern of energy, shifting, pulsing, and refracting light in a mesmerizing display. It had no face, no voice as humans knew it, but it clearly understood the probe. Alex felt a mix of awe and anxiety. "Commander, it's communicating back. I think it wants to know who we are, why we are here." Vieira nodded quietly. "Then tell it. Show it who humans are." Alex took a deep breath. They focused on clarity and honesty. Through the probe, they sent signals representing their journey, the accident that broke the warp drive, the dangerous voyage into the Helix Nebula, the retrieval of the crystal, and the crew's determination to survive. They encoded not just facts, but emotion, courage, ingenuity, hope, and perseverance. The entity paused, its energy pulsing in rhythm with the signals. Then, in a wave of light, it responded, patterns suggesting comprehension, acknowledgement, and even approval. It wasn't human, but Alex felt a profound connection. They had reached across a gap, not of distance alone, but of species, form, and understanding. For the first time in weeks, Alex allowed themselves a smile. Here was proof. That connection, real connection, was possible even in the cold emptiness of space. Distance could be bridged not just with words, but with action, ingenuity, and sincerity. Yet the experience also reminded them of another gap, the friend who had moved away. Messages and letters seemed pale compared to this vivid interaction. Alex felt a pang of sadness. They wished they could reach home with the same immediacy, the same clarity, the same proof of human courage and heart. Vera approached quietly. "You've done well, Alex," she said. "You've proven what I hoped. Humans can think, adapt, and communicate in ways no machine can. That's the value of your kind." Alex exhaled slowly. "It's amazing," they admitted. "But it makes me think of those I care about back home. I feel so far away from them, and I don't know how to close that distance." Vera looked out the observation window at the entity, now pulsing calmly in response to Alex's signals. "Distance is real. Sadness is real. But you've just seen what humans can do when they refuse to give up. You can use that same courage and ingenuity to reconnect at home, too. Even if it's not immediate, even if it's not perfect, it matters that you try." Alex nodded, inspired. They realized that hope wasn't a feeling to wait for, it was something to act on. They couldn't erase the distance between themselves and their friend, but they could reach across it with effort, creativity, and determination. As the Aurora prepared to leave the sector, the entity emitted one final brilliant pulse of energy, then slowly dissipated into the star field. Alex watched, feeling a quiet warmth. They had bridged a gap no one expected them to cross. And somewhere inside they knew the same spirit could help them bridge the personal distances in their own life. Later, alone in the quiet of the observation deck, Alex pulled out a communicator. They began drafting a message to their friend. Every word was chosen carefully, each sentence a small bridge across the light years that separated them. They didn't know how long it would take for a reply, but it didn't matter. Action mattered. Effort mattered. Humanity mattered. "I may be far away," Alex typed, "but I'm trying. I hope we can connect again somehow." They sent the message into the void, watching as it disappeared into the network of quantum communications. A sense of peace settled over them. They had acted. They had reached out. And in the vast emptiness of space, that mattered more than the distance itself. Vera appeared once more. "Well done, Alex. Today you've learned something vital. Humans endure, even across impossible distances. And sometimes you discover allies in the most unexpected places. Remember this lesson. It applies to every challenge you face." Alex smiled, feeling a mixture of pride, hope, and longing. Distance remained, they could not erase it. But their courage, ingenuity, and determination had created connection where none seemed possible. They had faced danger, interacted with the unknown, and taken the first steps toward bridging the emotional distances in their own life. And as the Aurora jumped back into warp, leaving the nebula behind, Alex felt that spark. The human spark of hope, action, and perseverance burn brighter than ever. No matter how far away those they cared about might be, no matter how lonely or uncertain the journey, they would keep reaching, keep trying, and keep proving what it meant to be human. Because sometimes, the most powerful connections aren't made through proximity. They're made through courage, ingenuity, and the refusal to give up, even when everything seems distant and impossible. The Aurora hummed steadily as it left the Helix Nebula behind. The energy crystal was secured, the warp drive stabilized, and the crew had begun to relax. But Alex knew better. Space rarely allowed for true calm. There was always another challenge waiting, and this time, It would test more than their technical skill. It would test their courage, ingenuity, and ability to endure under pressure. As Alex worked in the engineering bay, fine-tuning the warp drive's new calibration, alarms suddenly blared. Red lights flashed across the console and a jolt shook the ship violently. The auxiliary systems were failing. Life support flickered, shields weakened, and sensors went haywire. "Report!" Commander Vieira shouted from the bridge. Alex's hands flew over the controls. "Gravitational wave detected. It's destabilizing our systems. We'll need manual override to prevent a full shutdown." The crew scrambled, but panic began to creep in. Machines beeped endlessly, unable to process the rapidly changing conditions. Only a human mind could navigate this chaos, and Alex realized it was their moment to act. They closed their eyes for a brief second, steadying their racing heart. Focus, observe, adapt. They remembered everything from the Helix Nebula, the unpredictable currents, the rogue asteroids, the radiation storms. They had survived all of that, relying on intuition, ingenuity, and courage. They could do it again. Alex quickly assessed the failing systems. Using spare materials and a combination of tools, they began improvising repairs. Wiring auxiliary power lines manually, patching damaged conduits, and rerouting critical functions. Alex worked with a calm precision that belied the chaos around them. "Alex," Vera's voice came over the comms, calm but urgent. "Do whatever you need. We trust you." Alex nodded even though she could not see them. Trust, they thought. Humans endure because they act, even when the odds seem impossible. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Every repair Alex attempted seemed fragile, almost temporary, but each small success allowed them to stabilize one more system. Sweat ran down their face, muscles ached, but they refused to stop. The distance from those they cared about, the friend who had moved away, the people they longed to reconnect with, added weight to their determination. They were not just fixing a ship. They were proving that humans could endure and create connection, even when separated by impossible distances. Finally, the warp drive hummed steadily again. The auxiliary systems stabilized, shields regained strength, and life support returned to normal. Alex leaned back, exhausted but triumphant. The crew erupted into cheers, but Alex barely heard them. Their mind was elsewhere, thinking of home, thinking of the gap they still felt, and thinking of how courage and ingenuity could reach across it. Vieira appeared behind them, her expression unreadable at first. Then, slowly, a hint of approval crossed her face. "You've done well, Alex, not just in fixing the ship, but in proving what humans can accomplish when they refuse to give up." Alex exhaled, their body trembling from exhaustion. I just want to reconnect with them," they admitted softly, thinking of the friend far away. "I want to close the distance, but I don't know how." Vieira placed a hand on their shoulder. "Distance is real, sadness is real, but human effort, your effort, has power. You can reach across distances with action, ingenuity, and persistence. You've done it here, with this ship, with this crew. You can do it with those you care about as well." Alex nodded, feeling a flicker of hope. They realized that HFY, their humanity, was not just about survival or technical skill. It was about courage, ingenuity, and the determination to act, in the face of isolation and uncertainty. Distance could not erase that, and it could not erase connection. Later, in the quiet of the observation deck, Alex began drafting a new message. This one was longer, more personal. They described the journey through the Helix Nebula, the danger they faced, the improvisations that saved the ship, and the lessons they had learned about human ingenuity and courage. They didn't know when, or if, the message would reach its destination, but they sent it anyway. "I may be far away, but I am trying. I hope you understand. I hope you can feel the effort, the courage, and the hope that keeps me going," they typed. Pressing send, Alex felt a sense of peace. They could not erase the distance, but they had acted. They had bridged a gap with effort, with creativity, and with the undeniable spark of human resilience. The crew, now calmer, began tending to minor repairs while Alex reflected. The starfield outside stretched endlessly, a reminder of both the vastness of space and the persistence of human hope. Every pulse of the warp drive, every stabilized system, and every careful decision was proof that humans could endure, adapt, and bridge distance in ways no machine could. Vieira joined Alex once more. "You've done more than repair a ship," she said quietly. "You've reminded everyone here what it means to be human. Courage, ingenuity, hope. These are your tools, not just your skill set. Remember that." Alex looked out into the void, thinking of the friend so far away. Sadness lingered, yes, but it was tempered by hope. Every step they had taken, every danger they had faced, every moment of improvisation and endurance had been proof that distance could be overcome, not instantly, but through effort, perseverance, and ingenuity. And in that moment, Alex understood something profound. The bridge between them and those they cared about was not just measured in light years. It was measured in courage, action, and hope. Every decision, every effort, every message sent, every problem solved, it all mattered. Humans endure. Humans create connection. Humans bridge distance with action. Alex smiled faintly. The aurora hummed beneath their feet. The stars stretched endlessly before them, and hope, fragile but real, burned brightly in their chest. They had survived the crisis, proven their ingenuity, and taken the first steps toward closing the distance that weighed on their heart. Because sometimes the hardest challenges are not just in space or in machines, they are in the distance between hearts. And sometimes, the most human response is to act, to persevere, and to reach across that distance, one brave step at a time. The aurora glided quietly through the starfield, the hum of the newly restored warp drive steady and reassuring. The immediate crises were behind them, yet Alex found little comfort in the calm. The vast emptiness outside the observation deck windows mirrored the emptiness they felt inside. The friend who had moved away, the people they cared about, every light year separating them felt heavier than any gravitational pull they had navigated. Alex walked through the engineering bay, checking instruments and recalibrating systems with meticulous care. Every adjustment reminded them of the journey so far. The dangerous trip through the Helix Nebula, the life-threatening failure of the auxiliary systems, and the unexpected encounter with the alien entity. Each challenge had tested their courage, ingenuity, and human persistence. Each had forced them to act when machines alone could not. And yet, through all of it, the personal distance remained. Alex had sent messages home, but responses were slow, fragmented, and incomplete. They had tried to bridge the gap with words, but words alone could not capture the experiences, the growth, and the lessons learned in this harsh, unforgiving part of space. They paused at a console and looked out at the distant stars. "I wish I could show them," Alex whispered to themselves. "I wish they could see what I've done, what I've survived." Commander Vieira appeared silently behind them. "Alex," she said, her voice calm but firm, "you've accomplished more than I could have expected. But the real lesson isn't about fixing the ship or surviving the nebula. It's about understanding the power you carry as a human, courage, ingenuity, and hope. That is what makes you remarkable." Alex shook their head slightly. "I understand that, but sometimes it feels lonely, like I'm reaching out across a void I can't cross." Vieira stepped closer. "Loneliness is part of the journey. It is the distance that makes connection meaningful. You've already begun to bridge that gap in your own way. You've proven that humans endure when faced with impossible odds. You've proven that hope and action travel farther than distance itself." Alex thought about the alien entity, its shimmering form responding to their signals. They had reached across a divide that no one thought they could cross, creating understanding where it seemed impossible. That experience was a reminder. Even the most distant connections could be strengthened through courage and effort. With renewed determination, Alex returned to the engineering bay. They began inspecting the warp drive and auxiliary systems, ensuring that nothing had been overlooked. Each adjustment was precise, each calibration carefully logged. Every problem solved reinforced a simple truth. Humans don't just survive. They adapt, innovate, and persist. As Alex worked, they drafted another message to their friend. This time it was different. Instead of explaining what had happened, they wrote about what they had learned, the courage it took to face unknown dangers, the ingenuity needed to improvise when machines failed, and the hope that had carried them through each challenge. Distance cannot erase connection, Alex typed. Even when miles separate us, effort, courage, and care can bridge the gap. I am trying. I am learning. And I hope we can reconnect soon. Pressing send, Alex felt a warmth spread through them. It wasn't a complete solution, and it wasn't immediate. But it was a step forward. It was proof that hope was active, not passive. That connection required courage, ingenuity, and persistence, the very traits that made humans remarkable. Later, Alex took a break and sat in the observation deck, watching the stars stretch endlessly. The aurora sailed steadily through space, a testament to human skill and resilience. They thought of the friend who had moved away again, imagining their smile, their voice, their quiet encouragement from long ago. Sadness was still there, but it was tempered with something stronger: hope. They remembered everything they had faced, navigating the unpredictable Helix Nebula, repairing the ship under impossible conditions, connecting with the alien entity, and keeping the crew safe. Each challenge had seemed insurmountable, yet they had overcome it. And through it all, the spark of humanity, the ingenuity, courage, and persistence had been their guide. Vera approached once more, standing quietly beside them. "You've done well, Alex. Not because you fixed machines or navigated dangers, but because you've embodied what it means to be human. Remember this. Carry it forward. Even across distances, even across time. This is your strength." Alex nodded, feeling the weight of her words. Distance remained. They were still far from the friend who mattered, still separated by light years and circumstance, but now they understood something essential. Connection wasn't measured in proximity. It was measured in effort, courage, and hope. The night passed quietly. Alex worked through minor repairs, recalibrated instruments, and occasionally stared at the stars, thinking of home. They drafted more messages, sending little fragments of themselves across the void. Each message was a bridge, small but real, connecting them to the world and people they cared about. And as the aurora glided smoothly through space, Alex allowed themselves a quiet smile. They had survived, adapted, and persevered. They had faced danger, uncertainty, and isolation, and proven that humans could endure even when separated from those they loved. Hope burned steadily in their chest, fueled by the knowledge that distance could be bridged through courage, ingenuity, and persistence. They could not erase the miles between them and the friend who had moved away, but they could act, reach out, and endure. That, they realized, was the essence of being human. Because sometimes it is not proximity that creates connection. It is effort. It is courage. It is hope. And in the vast emptiness of space, Alex had learned that humans could shine, endure, and reach across the void, no matter how impossible it seemed. For the first time in weeks, Alex felt something like peace. The warp drive was stable, the ship was safe, and the spark of hope between them and those they cared about, though fragile, burned brighter than ever. The journey was not over. Challenges still awaited. Distance still stretched endlessly. But Alex had learned the most important lesson. Humans endure, humans adapt, and humans can bridge even the greatest gaps through courage, ingenuity, and hope.